my foxy friends, welcome back to my channel. Thanks for joining in. I'm really excited to show you today my favorite knitting machine method because it just completely changed the game for me, and that's the waste yarn casting on, casting off method. I do apologize if you can hear some little squeaking in the background. My son, he's 5 weeks old, he's having a little snooze just outside the door, and so I can keep an eye on him. I want to try and get this done for you as soon as I can. Gotta take those moments when they're asleep. And I do apologize in advance for my mum brain. It's mum brain, baby brain, whatever you want to call it. It is strong right now, but that's okay. We're going to push through, and I'm hoping I can explain this to you as simply as possible because it is darn easy. Let's get into it. Okay, so to do the waste yarn cast on and cast off method on your circular knitting machine, what you're going to need is your project yarn, some scrap yarn and scissors. Now, this scrap yarn, you can use literally anything. This is just an 8-ply acrylic yarn from my stash that had been sitting there for God knows how long, really, and it just wasn't good. Well, I just couldn't really find the project to use it on. So what I do is I reuse them. So every time I cast on or cast off on a project, I then wind it back up. So today what I'm using is the Addy king size machine, but you can use this on any circular knitting machine and any brand. This method doesn't need a certain amount of pins. It'll work the same across all knitting machines. So here I've got my project yarn, which is just a 4-ply merino mix. Over here I've got my waste yarn and the tools that I need. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to cast on with the waste yarn using the same method you would normally use when casting on to any knitting machine. You're going to want to make sure that your pin is at, well, that it is at the start of the round. So it'll be the black pin here. Take your waste yarn and you're going to be wrapping it in and out, weaving in and out. Once you get back to the start, which is the black pin, put the waste yarn in the yarn guide or yarn feeder, whatever you like to call it. Make sure that your row counter, or if you have a row counter on your machine, it is set at 0. And now we're going to work 10 rounds. Okay, once you're back to the start, don't go too far like I have, but once you're back to the start, just cut it off and put it in the middle. And now we're going to attach our project yarn. Want to make sure it's around the first black pin, like so. And I always reset again the row counter, just so I know that these 10 rounds don't get included in my counting of the actual project I'm making. Alrighty, I've done the amount of rounds that I needed to do for this particular item, which I'm making a headband. Now we're going to cast off. And once you've learnt this, you're not going to want to do it any other way. Let me just trim that off. So we're going to cut off our project yarn. I'm going to put it in the middle, and we're going to attach the waist yarn. Again, working 10 rounds. Oh, so here you can actually see that one of my stitches have dropped. I'm just going to secure that really quickly before it goes any further. Here's a little extra trick for you. So you can use a darning needle if you want, but the crochet hook is probably better. And what you're going to want to do is pick it up before it drops any further. Come in from this way. And you can find the first bar. You can see there. And just slip it over. Find the next one down. Slip the stitch over. And again. And again. And what I do now, just to make sure it doesn't drop again, I just get a piece of waist yarn and pick up the next bar, which will be the first bar of the waist yarn. Slip it through there for now, and we're just going to tie it off very loosely. Because you'll want to get this undone again at some point. Okay, now back to the bit that probably scares everyone the most. So we're just going to wind this whole thing off, which is kind of opposite to what I've just done here, but you'll get what I mean in a minute. So once you've done your 10 rounds, for me, this particular ball of waist yarn must have been used on a smaller knitting machine, so I was only able to do 5 rounds. It doesn't really matter how many rounds you end up doing. I like to use 10 because it just gives me a bit of a safety zone, but 5 should be enough as well. So you're just going to crank it until they all jump off. Ta-da! Grab your work, just gently pull it to get the tension back in. And so you can see here my waist yarn, and that's the start of my project yarn, and the same down this end. Now, what do we do next after this? Well, you'll have to go to my next video where I show you how to do the slip stitch seam.